I have not
Chair, point of
asked
order,
a
point of order.
question.
How dare you?
Reclaiming my time. How dare you misstate the law?
Mr. Gonzalez, I read with interest your testimony. It was so angry, so I thought I'd try to lighten things up a little bit. Who are three of your favorite characters on Daniel Tiger, or what episodes are your favorites?
Representative Khanna, thank you very much for the opportunity to lighten up. I think I've taken a time machine here. Sesame Street went to HBO.
Daniel Tiger, do you have some favorite characters? Oh, the owl, any of them?
No, none.
What does Ugga Mugga mean to you?
Nothing.
You've never heard the expression Ugga Mugga?
Yeah, I don't think so, no.
It's affection. Have you ever watched a Daniel Tiger show, or know any families who watch a Daniel Tiger show?
I don't think so, no.
You've never watched one? You have
I've never
strong
seen Daniel
opinions
Tiger.
on it,
Sorry,
but do you know what Daniel Tiger is a successor to?
And I don't know Daniel Tiger, so I don't know what he's a successor
No, the
to.
show. What it's a successor to? Do you know?
No.
You really don't know?
No,
Honestly?
I really, no, I'm on the
You know
oath.
all the history. It's a successor to Mr. Rogers.
Oh, there you go, okay.
Yeah, I mean-
Mr. Rogers, I know.
If I could just, for the record, say I would not take Congresswoman Porter's investment opportunity, because it's investing with other people's money, and it's making choices that they might not themselves want to make with those dollars.
I want to start by talking about other people's money, because last time I checked, that's all we spend is the American people's money. That's actually the function of Congress. And there are no dollars that we spend that do not come from the American people. So the argument that we shouldn't do something because it's spending other people's money would simply suggest that we don't spend any money at all, including zeroing out the defense budget. Is that in fact what you were suggesting, Dr. Burke, that we zero out the defense budget so that we don't spend other people's money?
No, but it is the case
Right.
that
I'm reclaiming my time.
you are spending other people's money.
Always.
And that those choices need to reflect what most Americans want.
Okay.
Most Americans do not
Reclaiming
want
my time, Mr.
government-funded
Chair.
universal child
Reclaiming
care.
my time. This is not a hearing about federally mandated Head Start. I don't know what you're talking about. This is actually not what this hearing is about. This is a hearing about the economic and individual investments and returns and benefits, both to the future generation of American children, as well as to our ongoing current economy.
My name is Amy Swearer, and I'm a legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation, where my scholarship focuses on the Second Amendment and gun violence prevention. I've testified before various legislatures after several mass shootings: Parkland, Virginia Beach, El Paso, and unfortunately, too many others. And I hope to God this is the last time I ever have to testify before a legislative body after a mass shooting again. I fear that it won't be. And I fear that it won't be because the conversation has become predictable. An unspeakably horrific event like Uvalde or Buffalo happens, reflexively, almost compulsively, come calls for Congress to pass a whole host of gun control measures, largely targeting peaceable, law-abiding citizens. Should anyone dare question the constitutionality, practicality, or even the effectiveness of any of these policies, their opposition is immediately framed as callous obstructionism, and their legitimate concerns are brushed aside as, and I quote, bull. Now, Congressman, I am fully aware that when you are burying your child, nuanced policy discussions are irrelevant. It doesn't matter, it shouldn't matter to a fourth grader hiding under her desk, covering herself in her dead classmate's blood, whether the real problem here is a barrel shroud or the several dozen missed opportunities to intervene along the way. But it should matter to you, because you are the ones making public policy decisions. Many of you are the ones implying that a lot of victims would be alive today but for a mass shooter's pistol grip and a background check that he already passed. Many of you are the same ones mocking anybody for, quote, talking about doors, when a single locked door in Uvalde would likely have saved 21 lives, and when all of us just walked in here today into this building with its limited public access points, its one-way locking security doors, and its plethora of armed officers.
Ms. Swearer, in 2019, you testified on Representative Cicilline's bill, the assault weapons ban, before Congress. At the 2019 hearing, Representative Jim Jordan asked you if law-abiding people will be less safe to protect themselves if that bill was passed. Do you remember your response?
I have a general idea of what I would have said under that circumstance, but no, I don't remember my specific words.
You said, and I quote, "I think worse than that, sir, you will see millions of otherwise law-abiding citizens become felons overnight
Yes,
for nothing more than having scary-looking features on firearms."
it's
I was
true.
quite surprised by your answer. You read the bill before you came to Congress to testify against it, yes?
If we are referring to the ban on assault weapons?
Correct.
Yes.
So you knew that the bill would allow any gun owner to maintain possession of any semi-automatic assault weapon that was lawfully possessed before the bill became law.
No, so that is the case under that bill. The problem is,
Reclaiming
anytime
my
that is
time.
transferred to anybody
Reclaiming
else,
my time,
that now
Madam
becomes
Chair,
an
would
issue.
you please instruct the witness that the time belongs to me?
If you don't want to hear an answer to my question, I'm not sure
Jen-
why it's being asked.
The gentlelady has reclaimed her time.
So you knew that the bill, you said yes in response to my question, that you knew the bill would allow the gun owner to maintain possession of any semi-automatic assault weapon that was lawfully possessed before the bill becomes law. Ms. Swearer, I respect that we have different opinions on Representative Cicilline's assault weapons law, but we cannot have different facts. We have a duty to debate the merits of proposal. You falsely testified under oath
Would you
that
like
that
the
bill-
explanation of
No,
why
I will
I said
not. I
that?
have not yielded, Ms. Swearer.
Suspend.
Madam Chair, if she's going to ask questions, shouldn't she let the witness have time to
The
answer?
gentleman is not recognized.
You falsely testified under
Madam
oath.
Chair,
I
point
did
of
not.
order, point of order.
What is the gentleman's point?
I've been
of order?
accused of falsely testifying
She-
under oath,
the-
and I would like to
the-
address it.
The gentlewoman has accused her of perjury. Is she going to hold to that, or are you going to allow the witness to respond to that accusation of criminal conduct?
You have not come forward with a significant point of order. Ms. Porter will continue.
I asked you if that bill was correct, if the bill would allow any gun owner to maintain possession, and you said yes. Yet you testified that the bill would allow people to become felons overnight. Earlier today, you testified that you hoped that this was the last time you testified before Congress. For the sake of our nation and the integrity of this Congress,
I said
I do
Congress
too.
after a mass shooting, trying to figure out how to solve a problem that we are all heavily invested in solving.
Ms. Swearer,
That is
I have not
insulting.
Chair, point of order,
asked a
point of order.
question.
How dare you?
Reclaiming my time, how dare you misstate the law?
How dare you
at
ask questions that you
legislation.
do not even want an answer to?
Ms. Swearer, I'm moving on. I'm a lifelong consumer protection advocate. From 2015 to 2020, there were at least 2,070 unintentional shootings by children. 765 of those children died. A consumer product that causes this much harm to the public would normally be subject to a recall. But federal law prohibits the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the agency responsible for protecting the public from dangerous products, from regulating guns. This is absurd. After one child died using a Peloton treadmill last year, the Consumer Product Safety Commission intervened and recalled the product. But when hundreds of children die using guns, there is no federal response. There is no federal safety standard for guns. Even though 40,000 Americans hurt or kill themselves or other people in hundreds of accidents every year. Instead of regulating guns like any other consumer product, federal law protects gun manufacturers. A teenager can watch a video online and learn how to modify a rifle to make it more deadly. And the gun industry avoids any liability if that teenager uses that modified rifle to fire repeatedly and rapidly at innocent people, even though their products could be designed to prevent unsafe modifications. I want to give an example. In 2001, a 13-year-old boy named Billy accidentally shot his father's handgun and killed his friend Josh. Billy mistakenly thought the gun was unloaded because he had removed the gun's magazine. Josh's family sued the gun manufacturer for failing to warn Billy and other consumers that their product could be fired without a magazine. It's a simple case. It should have been decided by a jury, as is provided under the Constitution. Instead, because of the gun industry's immunity, the gun manufacturer was able to dismiss the case without a trial. If a pharmaceutical company failed to warn customers about the known risks of one of their drugs, they could face thousands of lawsuits. but we allow the gun industry to sell weapons without taking any precautions to protect children and families from fatal accidents. Mr. Suplima, do you think the gun industry would do more to protect children if Congress ended their immunity?
Absolutely.
Would ending the gun industry's immunity put gun manufacturers out of business?
No, it would not.
In the 1990s, lawsuits forced Big Tobacco to pay for the harm they caused by marketing cigarettes. Just last year, Big Pharma agreed to pay $26 billion for communities devastated by opioids.
Madam Chair,
Victims
time's
of gun
expired.
violence also deserve their day in court. They deserve justice. I yield back.
Do you know what Daniel Tiger is a successor to?
And I don't know Daniel Tiger, so I don't know what he's.
No, the show. What it's a successor to? Do you know?
No.
You really don't know?
No, I
Honestly?
really, no, I'm
Because
on the
you know
oath.
all the history. It's a successor to Mr. Rogers.
Oh, there you go, okay.
Yeah,
Nah,
I mean-
Mr. Rogers, I know.
Okay. Are you familiar with his 1969 testimony?
I am.
He said, I want to quote, because it's one of my favorites. I studied this actually going to school. It's some of the most effective testimony in Congress.
Make it clear that feelings are mentionable and manageable. We will have done a great service for mental health. I think that it's much more dramatic that two men could be working out their feelings of anger. Much more dramatic than showing something of gunfire. I'm constantly concerned about what our children are seeing. And for 15 years, I have tried in this country and Canada to present what I feel is a meaningful expression of care.
Do you narrate it?
I'm the host, yes, and I do all the puppets, and I write all the music, and I write all the script.
Well, I'm supposed to be a pretty tough guy, and this is the first time I've had goosebumps for the last 2 days.
Well, I'm grateful not only for your goosebumps, but for your interest in our kind of communication. Could I tell you the words of one of the songs which I feel is very important?
Yes.
This has to do with that good feeling of control, which I feel that children need to know is there. And it starts out, what do you do with the mad that you feel? And that first line came straight from a child. I work with children, doing puppets in very personal communication with small groups. What do you do with the mad that you feel? When you feel so mad you could bite. When the whole wide world seems oh so wrong, and nothing you do seems very right. What do you do? Do you punch a bag? Do you pound some clay or some dough? Do you round up friends for a game of tag or see how fast you go? It's great to be able to stop when you've planned a thing that's wrong and be able to do something else instead and think this song. I can stop when I want to, can stop when I wish, can stop, stop, stop anytime. And what a good feeling to feel like this and know that the feeling is really mine. Know that there's something deep inside that helps us become what we can. For a girl can be someday a lady, and a boy can be someday a man.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Looks like you just earned the $20 million.
Senator Pastor was a hard-headed fiscal conservative, said he got goosebumps by that testimony, and it's what convinced him to fund the public broadcast. You've said you wouldn't have funded it. Do you think Senator Pastor made a mistake back then?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with Fred Friendly, who testified and
You
said,
you would have voted against?
I would have voted, yes, I don't think that you should have state broadcasters.
Now, what is the cost of public broadcasting as a percent of the federal budget?
I don't know, but it is
I mean, yes, come on, you're talking about the $36 trillion of debt that we have. You're saying this is a really important thing that we need to cut. You didn't research out what percent it is?
It's important in principle,
Well,
and
no, but
it
you
was.
said the principle is a different thing. You're saying this is an effective strategy to cut debt, and you have no idea what percent.
It was 5% of the discretionary cuts in the GOP.
It's 0.01%.
Right, but it was 5% of the discretionary cuts in the 17 budget.
0.01%
Right.
of the federal budget. That's one of the reasons Senator Pastor said, you know, it's worth it in an investment in American kids. Now, you said Sesame Street is a private organization, or Sesame Street is going private. I didn't understand that because Sesame Workshop is a nonprofit. What did you mean by private?
Well, I mean, it's a nonprofit. It's separate from.
But it gets public funding. Were you talking about the HBO thing?
Yes,
Do you realize that HBO just canceled with them? And
I do. Yes.
And the reason they canceled them, and I'm trying to explain why Senator Pastor funded this, and if you talk to families who watch Daniel Tiger, maybe you'd appreciate it. The reason they canceled it is because it wasn't making a profit. See, because when you try to do Daniel Tiger or Sesame Street, and you try to do what Mr. Rogers was talking about, helping the emotional and social development of kids, it's not easy. You got to hire people who are child psychologists. You have to hire people who are educationalists. A lot goes into this. And HBO said, you know what? It's not making money. We rather put on things that are geared towards adults or that are going to be conflicts. We aren't making money on this. And the whole reason Senator Pastor said that we're going to fund this, I know you kind of mocked in your testimony the kids, but the whole reason was that when you make programming for children to help their social and emotional development, it costs so much money to do, and it's a public good, then not everything has to be about profit. Do you have any idea what it takes to produce Daniel Tiger, who all they hired? Did you ever try to figure it out?
No, but I can tell you that the market said that it wasn't, and there wasn't enough demand for it. And that's the reason why HBO got rid of it.
Right.
Because there wasn't enough demand.
Yeah, so that's exactly the right point. Are you saying that everything in American society needs to be driven by the profit motive? There is not enough demand on getting ratings for things that help the social and economic development of kids. But you know what Mr. Rogers understood, what we've forgotten in this country? Some things are more valuable than money. At a time where a country is polarized, I wish we had a little more empathy and caring, and that's not a partisan issue. That's an American issue, and I would recommend you re-watch that testimony from Mr. Rogers. I hope the whole country would watch it.
I have watched it, and we are $36 trillion in debt.
It was said that we're attacking free speech. This is paid, this is state-sponsored speech. And the very reason why we have these witnesses before us today isn't because they're totally being funded or completely being funded. We're not bringing in Disney Channel in here, right? We're not bringing in the National Geographic, right, for their content. The reason why we're having this conversation is because we are funding you, and because we're funding you, the taxpayers get to have an opportunity to ask, why are we funding some of this content that they might disagree with? Right?
Yeah, no, that's completely right. In fact, I think that PBS and NPR, but especially PBS, will thrive on the membership model. They keep saying it's such a small percentage. Well, if it's the public funding, if it's such a small percentage, then no problem.
Yeah.
So,
Ms. Maurer, I'm going to ask a very difficult question, but if you're in my shoes and you have to face the fact, can we fund Social Security or do we spend money on NPR? Which would you choose?
Congressman, I would argue that in one of the...
If you had to pick, if you were forced to make a decision, there wasn't enough money to go around, Social Security or NPR?
We know how important public media is to our nation's seniors, sir.
More important than Social Security. I think the American people disagree.
I think that...
Ms. Kerger, let me ask this.
So I have an investment opportunity for everyone in the hearing room today. For every dollar that you invest, you will get back at least $4. Anyone want to invest?
I'll take it.
It's pretty good. You won't lose your money. You'll always get back more than you put in. And unlike some of these investment schemes, mine is legal. Anyone in? This is just math. 4 is more than 1. More money is better than less money. Economists agree. Republicans, Democrats agree. This investment is not a hard decision. People would snap this up in the real world. Invest $1, get 4 back, no risk. Ms. Boteic, would you believe me if I told you that Congress had that same investment opportunity for our country and turned it down every year?
Sadly, yes.
Why would you believe that?
Because we know that the science is there, that when we support children and families, especially starting at birth, that it yields long-term and outsized benefits for families and for our economy. And yet, here we are over 50 years after Nixon vetoed universal child care, still with families struggling to find and afford care and providers making poverty wages.
And I think you gave earlier, what is the total new estimate of how much this would generate for our, if we had affordable child care, full access to child care, what would this generate for our economy?
So for a family?
For the whole economy.
For the whole economy. Okay, so we're losing right now $122 billion.
$122 billion that we could have in our economy, and yet what we hear around here all the time is that we don't have money to do things. So Congress has had years to invest in universal child care. Every dollar we put in would have generated, estimates show, about $4 for our economy, yet we still don't have it. Why? Ms. Potato, why don't we have this?
Well, we need to build the political and public will. The voters are there.
Okay, so the problem must be then the will of the people here, because
Yeah.
voters support this. So let's talk about who's here. How would you describe the gender balance and average age of Congress?
It skews older, male, and whiter.
That's correct. So only about 28% of members of Congress are women. The median age in the Senate is 65, and the median age in the House is 58. So lots, on average, lots of older people, lots of older men, lots of men. Is this the type of group who personally needs early childhood education?
Generally not.
Generally not. So early childhood education won't benefit many members, the average member of Congress. Most members' kids are grown, so they don't have to care about where their kids are going. And even when their kids were young, most members leaned heavily on their wives, and I say wives because most members are men, heterosexual men, to juggle their kids' schedule. And frankly, there's a lot of rich people in Congress who didn't have to worry about how to afford childcare or how to navigate the system because they were wealthy. Too many in Congress don't get it because they never had to live it. So this leads to the familiar policy pattern. The older men collectively, that's our Congress, not to take away from any individual champions, including Representative Beyer and Senator Heinrich, but the collective body of older, richer men in Congress overinvest in things they understand, like the Pentagon, and they underinvest in things like early childhood education that don't personally benefit them, maybe don't even make sense to them, and maybe do not reflect how they lived their lives, even if they are big problems for the majority of Americans. So, Ms. Boteach, when institutions like Congress perpetuate longstanding social disparities for women like this, is there a term for that?
I think it's called patriarchy.
Patriarchy is correct. I would also call it structural sexism. When we say smash the patriarchy, when we say that structural sexism continues to permeate this body and this policy, our policies, that's what we're talking about. We're not imagining it. It's not about interpersonal slights. It is about what this body chooses to get done and to fund and to focus on, and what always ends up on the cutting room floor in legislation. Structural sexism is an age-old story. It's not going to go away by itself. It's going to go away because we make it go away. When we stop undervaluing the work of Black and brown women, or the majority of childcare workers, when we start recognizing that women can and must contribute to our economy if we're going to have a globally competitive economy. So, Ms. Boteach, to fix this problem, Congress has to abandon these sexist, outdated ideas and start thinking more about investments. How much would Congress need to invest to establish universal early childhood education?
We've been advocating for $700 billion over 10 years to invest in high-quality early care and education, which could easily be supported by taxing wealthy individuals and corporations.
So you're advocating for $700 billion over 10 years? Mm-hmm. President Biden, I remember everyone proposed $400 billion for preschool and childcare, and yet that would have multiplied by 4, generated trillions of dollars for our economy. So all of our witnesses, everybody said that we'd take this bet, we'd quadruple our money if we could. So investing in early childhood education shouldn't be a hard call, even given the profile of Congress. We should all want to make investments that pay back. So if my colleagues are not moved by the clear economic benefit of investing, in early childhood education, maybe they'll be moved simply by this single mom asking them to care on behalf of all the other parents of young children who are struggling in this country. I implore Congress to invest in childcare workers, and early childhood education.
I want to just sort of start, do you think it's an accurate characterization to say that those with professional degrees are much, much more biased towards those family care models that depend on two earners at home and outsourcing childcare, whereas working class Americans have a much stronger preference for at least part of the time one of the parents or some other relative being able to care for the child at home? Is that an accurate characterization of public
I
opinion?
think that's generally the case.
So, just picking up on something Congresswoman Porter said earlier, there certainly obviously are all manner of ways in which Congress is not reflective of the American people as a whole. But of course, one of the ways in which Congress is not reflective of the American people as a whole is that we have a much different education and income skew than the country at large. And I guess one thing I'm sort of wondering is, has anybody talked about, just take the Head Start program, okay? We're obviously spend close to $1 trillion in this country on early childhood care. We have a lot of my colleagues, especially on my side of the aisle, tend to support what's called school choice, where you give families different options. And I wonder if there have been any significant proposals in your mind, any credible proposals in your mind, that would actually extend the choice model a little bit more broadly. And so, say for example, you're a professionally educated or working class person, and you would like to have every adult in the household working outside the home, and you would like to have childcare paid for by people outside the home. That's one model. But another model is, and in fact, I think the preference of most Americans actually fits in with this model, is if you're a mom or a dad, maybe you spend a few years at least working part-time, so you spend more time at home with the kids, and then you re-enter the market workforce at some point later. And obviously that was more true of women 50 years ago. It's increasingly true of men and women today. But I'm sort of curious, have you thought of any school choice-like proposals that would not foist the professional class preference on everybody, but would actually give people some choices for how they care for their children during those formative years?
Well, thank you for those questions. And if I could just, for the record, say I would not take Congresswoman Porter's investment opportunity, because it's investing with other people's money, and it's making choices that they might not themselves want to make with those dollars. That's what Congress does. So
there are lots of ways that we could deliver this. Like Representative Beyer, I have had lots of different kinds of arrangements. Universal, to quote what Ms. Botaic said, doesn't mean the same. Universal means that the funding, the outcome, the choice is there and available. If we had universal health care in this country, and we don't, some people might choose to go get a colonoscopy every year, and a lot of people won't. It's the same thing with childcare. I personally have had my children in big corporate care. I have had them hourly in home, part-time. I have had full-time live-in. I have been in a family-owned small business, and I have had in-home family-based care. All of it. And you know what it all was? Really helpful. Particularly as a single mother. Because there is no other person. Senator Vance's hypothetical says that one parent might prefer to stay home. That's probably true. There's a lot of statistics that show that parents, men and women, have different preferences at different points in time. But what about the 10 million single moms? Where do they fit? Dr. Burke, where did you put your children in childcare?
Well, I'm not going to bring my children into this hearing, so it doesn't have any bearing on this. So
Dr. Burke, do you have children?
I do.
So I'm sharing my story because my story is one that doesn't get heard in this Congress. Because do you know how many single moms there are?
One or two?
One. Childcare, custodial care to help people who may choose all kinds of different options. I've had full-time care. I've had 3/4 care. I had when I had a spouse, he stayed home some years. That was how we fit the pieces together. But that's what this hearing is about, not jamming one size fits all. But if there isn't the money, there won't be the choice. That's why we see married parents saying they would prefer to stay home because they have the option to stay home. Single parents don't say they'd rather stay home because they couldn't. So our whole perspective here is warped by the fact that this body is so disproportionately unrepresentative of the American people's experience. It is absolutely Congress's job to spend the American people's money. And if we can't spend it to help the next generation of American workers, I don't know what the hell we're doing here. I yield back.
Can I respond quickly to that?
No, she actually cannot.
No, thank you, Dr. Burke.
All right.
We appreciate it. But